Hi, and welcome to the Planet Driven Brands podcast. In this show, we will be discussing with our guests how brands they represent can help in the drive to build a better, more sustainable and safer planet. We will highlight brands as drivers for change and the role they play as influencers. How will brands positively impact the planet and its environment? This is what we're going to find out. Do brands actually have any responsibility to change? Planet Driven Brands podcast, episode 11. Today's guest is Martin Simpson, Senior Vice President of Design for Europe at Marks. Hi Martin, good to see you again. Can you give us a short introduction to yourself?
Hi, I'm Martin Simpson. I'm a designer by trade. I work for an agency called Marks, a big global agency. I bring brands to life. That's my job.
In terms of responsibility of brands and positive contributions to the planet, where do you stand on that?
Listen, I think there's only one way you can morally stand on that, which is that everyone's got a duty of care to the planet. So I think as human beings, we should probably start there.
Yes.
And all other things should probably come second. If that's
Does it always work that way though? Let's face it.
Well, let's face it, though, it probably doesn't always work that way. But I think consumers are over time changing their own mindsets in the importance of self-impact on the planet and self-impact on the environment, including, by the way, planet plus other people around them. And I think as a consequence of that, customers are, generally speaking, becoming a lot more savvy and have a lot higher expectations of what they expect from businesses, and they expect brands to have a position and make a contribution because they themselves are making a contribution.
Should all this work that's being done be promoted, or actually is the consumers saying, we expect you to do this?
I think there's a position I'm kind of advocating here is that for customers, they expect it.
Yeah.
I think when you're a brand, you have to be extremely careful because when you're a brand, you fit into people's lives. You offer them something. Yeah. What's very difficult for customers is to hear you suddenly moving from one thing to another thing. Yeah. I think also that if you're a brand owner, you need to be very, very careful not to appear to be worthy on these things when actually prospectively you historically, if you've been part of the problem. I think that also if you're a brand owner, you also need to be really, really careful that I have a saying I apply a lot to people who develop brands is simple, honest, and consistent. And when you work with those words, you work with, particularly consistency, magnifying your messaging. Yeah. It's very difficult to being a brand that provides energy in people's lives to a brand that is moving and flipping on a dime to be totally different. Ultimately, you still are a business that are built around providing energy in people's lives. You have to be careful how you bring that narrative.
What is the role of agencies in collaborating with the brand partners?
I mean, we're lucky. We actually have people who in our agency who understand engineering and they understand materiality and they understand the efficiency for distribution and through packing. They understand how manufacturing works. Actually, they deeply understand how print works, and so they deeply understand things like ink coverage, paper choicing, bleaching impacts, even right the way down to cylinder engraving, because cylinder engraving has an environmental impact. There's chemicals, etc., that are used on that. The choices around of those things that you make. So we can provide good advice to clients. Clients always don't engage you in that way, of course. So clients aren't necessarily, when they come to us, looking for a shopping list of righteousness, and you have to be careful not to do that. But I think that there's a advocacy that agencies have, that when you believe that something can be done better or that you can mitigate an impact, that there's a duty of care. Going back to the way we started this conversation, the way I positioned, the duty of care isn't a business duty of care, it's a personal duty of care. And I think if you position in that place, you position your conversations in that place, generally speaking, it's helpful to your customer in the end because you're forcing that reappraisal. I think we're quite lucky, actually, Nick. Certainly on our side, a lot of our customers are they're big businesses. There are so many initiatives that they're doing. I mean, everyone's playing catch up, I think, in reality in terms of environmental impacts. But there's so many initiatives that they're doing that they're not necessarily shouting about. I don't think customers expect them to shout about it. I think customers expect them to do it. That's their remaining relevant. So we're quite lucky with the people that we're working with. There's a lot of initiatives.
So what about, back to what you're an expert at, colours in packaging then? Is it the same thing? Should we be reducing that?
Well, listen, everything that you do has an impact.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, inevitably, it's a material, it's a manufacturing touch point, and it has a impact. Managing those impacts, I think, is pretty critical. So there are a number of things that you can do with inks, irrespective of the choice of colours and the number of colours, to reduce your environmental impact. Pulling back up, for example, on ink and ink coverage and overprinting, reducing the lay down of ink at the printer, so that's the ink flow rate going onto the material to achieve the colour. Choosing the right set of sustainable inks, green inks versus petrochemical inks is a choice. Choosing the right substrate of material that you're printing onto is a choice. Limiting the way you set up the cutter, which for the listeners is the thing that cuts the shape out to make the label shape, which Nick and I are nodding at each other at. You set your cutter up on the massive sheet of paper to cut out all those little shapes and to remove inefficiencies there and save material. Yes. All of these things, it sounds crazy, but all of these things add up.
So we worked together on Wicked Kitchen many years ago, and that's one of the UK's leading vegan brands. I know you were there when it launched and the thoughts around it. Can you give us any insights as to how Wicked Kitchen came to be, apart from Derek Sarno and the food?
Well, firstly, I don't think we can have a conversation without hats off to Derek.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in fairness, his brother, Jack,
yes.
Hats off to those guys. So well, let's start with a massive Martin Simpson caveat. That this isn't Derek talking, it's Martin Simpson. So I will never do in any commentary the justice that Derek could do as a statement of fact. What I will say is that Wicked Kitchen is about helping customers transition from I need to buy meat to reappraising the alternatives that are out there are every bit as tasty and every bit as good. Wicked Kitchen is really like Wicked Tasty. It's seasoned and it's griddled and it's charred and it's all these amazing things that really bring out the flavor of every individual element that the guys are choosing to use. Getting customers to reappraise from, I call it the veggie burger effect. Veggie burgers used to be something that you suffered. That was I think that customers have changed a little bit, and so has the marketplace. No one expects to suffer through a veggie burger. You expect to love it, and it should be loved. It's a thing of beauty.
You're absolutely right. It was crying out for tasty food that happened to be vegan, and I think Derek and Wicked and Fair Play Tesco got it right. Got it absolutely spot on right.
I think you just on reiterating that really, really important point. If you happen to be vegan, brilliant. You also happen to deserve amazing tasting food, because that's the standard that we should all have. It's never vegan with compromise. It should be vegan without compromise. And I think if we can achieve that in the marketplace, it will help us all mitigate the impact we're having environmentally by choosing to buy meat, because we're choosing to buy meat for taste. So we have to provide a great taste alternative, which is really the role that Wicked Kitchen plays in all of this.
And it does. It helps everyone make those small steps. As you know, 80% of people want to eat less meat, but they scrabble around looking for anything apart from a margarita pizza in order to do that.
Exactly that.
I like a margarita pizza personally.
I love a margarita pizza, but it's very easy there's nowhere to hide on a margarita pizza.
I'd like to move to another subject, Martin. I spoke to one of your colleagues and we started talking about the Planet Moment of Truth. I'd love to hear a bit more about that.
Going back to some of the things we've talked about in this amble of conversation, it's been great. It's been very enjoyable. But looking at, if you think about some of the things I've talked about in terms of complexity, that we like to make things very simple as human beings because we can digest that information. Not everyone is born as a material scientist, and not everyone is born as an operational and distributional leader. So if you're a brand owner and your brand touches all of these things, how do you make very, very complicated and deep data rich spreadsheets and material science into something that can be easily digested? And how do you make business choices in a world where when you impact one thing, it pulls something else out of shape? And which one do you pull out of shape to get the biggest impact? That's where a tool like PMOT comes in, because you're taking very, very disparate inputs and expertise and pulling them together into something visual that can be easily digested by multiple people without the need to upskill them in how to read really data rich inputs. And that's actually where helping brand owners and businesses understand what they can tweak to gain and what they can impact. It's a very easy tool in helping people to do that. That old first moment of truth, second moment of truth, third moment of truth from a customer's perspective, to step into the world of how customers make their decisions and how we want them to reward and understand, be rewarded through the experience of a product and a brand. The reality is there is a planet moment of truth. That's the seed is well and truly planted, and it is out. It's growing wild and it's out there. And first moment of truth, second moment of truth, and third moment of truth. The reality is that customers are appraising your product, whoever you might be, and your business on your planet moment of truth. And if you haven't encompassed that yet, as I said earlier, then you really need to probably start thinking about what am I bringing to the table, and what's our contribution as human beings and as brand owners to this.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Martin. I know you called it an amble, but it was really, really interesting and entertaining to hear your views. Thank you so much, Martin. That was fantastic.
All right, mate. See you later.
Be good. All the best. Thank you. See ya. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the show. The Planet Driven Brands podcast is the brainchild and copyright of Nick Jones and is broadcast in partnership with theplanetsagency.com. Planets Agency is a partnership of consultants and communications experts. We build planet-driven brands. During the series of shows, we'll be hearing from more experts, and we would love for you to be involved. Please do comment or come back to us with questions. We'll be happy to engage. If you wish to be notified when our episodes are broadcast, please subscribe on the website. If you'd like to be part of the show, we'd love to hear from you. We look forward to many more entertaining episodes. Thanks again for listening.